Cheers everybody, welcome back to another video. And today, I have a really fascinating video for you guys. We're gonna be talking about Kamal Ravikant's success story in his book called Love Yourself. And you'll find as you watch this video how interesting this actually is, because it's an affirmation success story. It's basically a robotic affirming success story, a really, really amazing one. And just to give an introduction here, real quick, to who Naval is. Naval. That's the issue, is that we have Kamal Ravikant and then there's also Naval Ravikant. And I actually got them confused because they're both extremely hyper intelligent people. And I almost got them confused again here because I was looking up the Wikipedia and Naval appeared, whereas we're talking about Kamal. However, because he has worked, this is just a very basic overview. He's worked with some of the most influential people in Silicon Valley as an entrepreneur and investor, has founded several companies, but apparently at this point in time, he's most known for his books, and this being one of the main books that he is famous for. So we're just gonna get right into the foreword of the book, which is going to actually give himself an introduction better than I could anyway. So in December of 2011, I was invited to be a participant at Renaissance Weekend in Charleston, North Carolina. Not what you think, no jousting knights or fair maidens, instead a conference attended by CEOs from Silicon Valley and New York, Hollywood types from LA, and politicians and their staff from DC. It's like TED, but everyone is assigned to participate in panels or give a talk. The application asked for awards won and recognitions received, and as an example listed the Nobel Prize. Really. I have no awards to speak of or pedigree, no Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley on my business card. When the founder of the event introduced me to the audience at a talk I gave, he assigned to me if I could do anything. He said, Kamal cannot keep still. Whether as an infantry soldier in the US Army or climbing the Himalayas or walking across Spain on an ancient pilgrimage, he's always moving. He'd done his research. I don't remember the rest, but I remember his last line. I'm sure he'll have something interesting to share with us. I had exactly 2 minutes to stand on a podium and address an audience of scientists, Pentagon officials, politicians, and CEOs, all far more qualified than I to talk about pretty much anything. The speaker before me had been the youngest person to graduate from MIT, full honors of course. Before him, the youngest Thiel fellow. It's interesting what goes through your mind at moments like these. Time slows down, yes, but that's almost cliche. There's only the podium and the microphone. You step up, the audience grows blurry as if out of focus. Clock starts. And then I knew what to do. I would offer something no one else could, my truth. Something I'd learned purely from my experience, something that saved me. The audience came into focus. If I could do anything, I said in the microphone, I would share the secret of life with the world. Laughter from the audience, and I just figured it out a few months ago. For the next 2 minutes, I spoke about the previous summer when I'd been very sick, practically on bed rest. The company I'd started nearly 3 years ago was struggling. I'd just gone through a breakup and a friend I loved suddenly died. To say I was depressed, I told them, would have been a good day. I told them about the night I was up late, surfing Facebook, looking at photos of my friend who'd passed, and I was crying, miserable, missing her. I told them about waking up the next morning, unwilling to take anymore, the vow I made and how it changed everything. Within days, I started to get better, physically, emotionally. But what surprised me was that life got better on its own. Within a month, my life had transformed. The only constant being the vow I'd made to myself and how I kept it. Afterwards, and for the rest of the conference, people came up to me individually and told me how much what I'd shared meant to them. One woman told me that sitting in the audience listening to me, she'd realized that this was the reason she came. And all I'd done was shared a truth I learned. A month later, a friend was going through a difficult time, so I wrote up what I'd learned that summer and sent it to him. It helped him a lot. Months after, I shared it in an email with James Altucher, a friend of mine and my favorite blogger. He replied, offering to feature it as a guest post on his blog. Naturally, I refused. Truth be told, I panicked. Lots of my friends read his blog. I'm an entrepreneur in Silicon Valley. It's fine to write about startups, but this stuff, you have to share this, James wrote back. It's more important than a here's how to be an entrepreneur or here's how to bulk up in 30 days. This is the only message that's important. I shared my fear with him. What would people think? His response, something that I will never forget and always be grateful for. I don't do a post now unless I'm worried about what people will think about me. So I struck a deal with him. I'd kept notes about what I'd learned, the practice, how I'd succeeded and failed. I would put those together in a book and send it to him. If he liked it, I'd publish it. And that's how we ended up here. So that's the foreword to this book to give you an introduction. So what is this about? Loving yourself. Same thing your mom told you. Same thing self-help books repeat through. And now we're going to get into the practice and how this robotic affirmations, how he came to this and how it impacted his life here. So same thing self-help books repeat enough times to be cliche, but there's a difference. It's not lip service. It's not a fire and forget type approach. It's something I learned from within myself, something I believe saved me. And more than that, the way I set about to do it. Most of it, simple enough to be idiotic, but in simplicity lies truth. Very true. In simplicity lies power. Starting with the write-up I sent to my friend, it's a collection of thoughts on what I learned, what worked, what didn't, where I succeeded, and most importantly, where I fail daily. As a wise friend likes to remind me, this is a practice. You don't go to the gym once and consider yourself done. Same here. Meditation is a practice. Working out is a practice. Loving yourself, perhaps the most important of all, is a practice. The truth is, to love yourself with the same intensity you would use to pull yourself up if you were hanging off of a cliff with your fingers, as if your life depended on it. Once you get going, it's not hard to do. It just takes commitment, and I'll share how I did it. It's been transformative for me, and I know it will be transformative for you as well. So he's talking about how down bad he was, just miserable days where he'd lie in his bed, the drapes closed, he didn't know what to deal. He reached his breaking point. He was done. The misery, the pain, he was absolutely done with it. And in this desperation, he climbed out of his bed, staggered over to his desk, opened his notebook, and wrote, "This day, I vow to myself to love myself, to treat myself as someone I love truly and deeply. In my thoughts, my actions, the choices I make, the experiences I have, each moment I'm conscious, I make the decision to love myself. I love myself." There was nothing left to say. How long it took me to write this, less than a minute perhaps, but the intensity, it felt like I was carving words onto paper through the desk. I'd been disgusted with myself. I could love another and wish them well, but what about me? From now on, I would focus only on this thought, for me. How to love myself, I did not know. All I knew was that I'd made a vow, something greater than a commitment, bigger than a I wish or nice to have, a vow. I was going all in or destroy myself trying. There was no middle ground. In my bedroom, in the darkness, with the city outside that had no idea of the decision that had been made or it cared, I set out to love myself. So here we go. The way I did it was the simplest thing I could think of and that I knew I was capable of. I started telling myself, I love myself. A thought I would repeat again and again. At first, lying in bed for hours, repeating to myself, I love 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 myself. The mind would wander, of course, head down rat holes, but each time I noticed, I'd return to repeating, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, and continued. First in bed, then showering, then went online. Then when I'd be talking to someone, inside my head, I'd be going, I love myself, I love myself. It became the anchor, the one true thing. And I got better. My body started healing faster. My state of mind grew lighter. But the thing I never expected or imagined, life got better. But not just better. Things happened that were fantastically out of my reach. Things I couldn't have dreamt of. It was as if life said, finally, you idiot, and let me show you that you made the right decision. It did. People came into my life. Opportunities arose. I found myself using the word magic to describe what was happening. And through it all, I kept repeating to myself, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. In less than a month, I was healthy, I was fit again, I was naturally happy, I was smiling. Amazing people were coming into my life, situations that were naturally resolving themselves. And through it all, whether I was at my computer again or kissing a pretty woman, in my head, I'd be telling myself, I love myself. In all honesty, in the beginning, I didn't believe that I loved myself. How many of us do? But it didn't matter what I believed. All that mattered was I was doing it, and I did it the simplest way I could think of. By focusing on one thought again and again and again and again until it was more on my mind than not. Imagine that. Imagine the feeling of catching yourself, loving yourself without trying. It's like catching a sunset out of the corner of your eye. It will stop you. So now he's got a section here where he says, why love? Why not I like myself or accept myself? Why does it have to be love? Here's my theory. If you've ever been a baby, you've experienced love. The mind knows it on a fundamental and even primal level. The word love has the ability to slip past the conscious into the subconscious where magic happens. What if you don't believe yourself that you love yourself? It doesn't matter. Your role is to lay down the pathways, brick upon brick, reinforce the connections between the neurons. The mind already has a strong wiring for love. The body knows it as well. It knows that love nurtures, that love is gentle, that love is accepting. It knows that love heals. Your job is not to do any of these. Your job is purely to love yourself, truly and deeply. Feel it again and again. Make it your single-minded focus. The mind and body will respond automatically. They don't have a choice. Here's the best part, one that makes me smile as I write this. As you love yourself, life loves you back. I don't think it has a choice either. I can't explain how it works, but I know it to be true. When you find yourself using the word magical to describe your life, you'll know what I'm talking about. The practice. I've tried to break down exactly what I did that worked and how one can replicate it. It comes down to three things, which I'll explain in later chapters. 1, mental loop. 2, a meditation. 3, one question. So this mental loop that he's describing is exactly what robotic affirmations are. And what he's describing as well is what we know about robotic affirming is that a lot of the times when you begin this practice, you don't believe it, but it doesn't matter. And he just articulated that. From some mysterious way, the neurons, they form a new pathway. He's going to go into more of this right here. So all three gently return me to self-love. That's the beauty of this practice. It's simple, it's practical, and the results are far greater than you could imagine. After all, if you loved yourself truly and deeply, would you limit your life to what you previously thought possible? No. You'd blow your own socks off. There's one requirement, a fierce commitment to loving yourself. This, I'm afraid, can't be skipped. What if you don't believe that you love or heck even like yourself? That's okay. The practice works in a way the mind is designed to function. The mind has no choice but to adapt and respond. Just remain open to the possibility of loving yourself. The rest is easy. Window. Darkness is the absence of light. If you remember this, it will change your life, change mine. It is this concept that this practice is based on. Any negative thought is darkness. How do you remove it? Do you fight fear or worry? Do you push or drown away sadness and pain? It doesn't work. Instead, imagine you're in a dark room and it's bright outside. Your job is to go to the window, pull out a rag, and start cleaning. Just clean, and soon enough, light enters naturally, taking the darkness away. It's that simple. Each time the mind shifts to darkness, fear, worry, pain, you name it, when you notice, clean the window, light will flow in. So he's talking here about the mental loop. How he'd do it nonstop. He says, I have nothing to lose. This is all there is. I love myself. I love myself. I don't give a damn about anything else. I love myself. I once heard someone explain thoughts as this. We as human beings think that we're thinking. Not true. Most of the time we're remembering. We're reliving memories. We're running familiar patterns and loops in our heads. For happiness, for procrastination, for sadness, fears, hopes, dreams, desires. We have loops for everything. We keep replaying the loops and they in turn trigger feelings. It's automatic to the point where we believe that we have no choice, but that is far from the truth. Imagine a thought loop as this, a pathway laid down by constant use, like a groove in rock created by water. Enough time, enough intensity, and you've got a river. If you had a thought once, it has no power over you. Repeat it again and again, especially with emotional intensity, feeling it, and over time, you're creating the grooves, the mental river. Then it controls you. And that is why a focused mental loop is the solution. Take this one thought, I love myself. Add emotional intensity if you can. It deepens the groove faster than anything. Feel the thought, run it again and again. Feel it, run it. Whether you believe it or not doesn't matter. Just focus on this one thought. Make it your truth. The goal here is to create a groove deeper than ones laid down over the years. The ones that create disempowering feelings, they took time as well. Some we've had since childhood, which is why this requires a focused commitment. Why it must be practiced. Forget demolishing the grooves of the past. What you're creating is a new groove so deep, so powerful, that your thoughts will automatically flow down this one. It takes time, sure. Took me a month to go from misery to magic. But you will notice changes, shifts in your feelings, beautiful happenings in your life. Expect them. There will be more and more until one day you'll be walking outside in the sunshine, feeling good, loving life, and life loving you back. And you'll stop and realize that this is now your natural state. Can you imagine a better way to be? So then he's describing here a meditation that he would do where sitting back against a wall, put on his headphones and listen to music. He'd imagine galaxies and stars as the universe above, and imagine all the light from space flowing into his head and down into his body, going wherever it needs to go. Breathe slowly, naturally. As I inhale, I think I love myself. Then I exhale and let out whatever response in my mind and body is, whether there is one or not. That's it, simple. Inhale, I love myself. Breathe out what comes up. And do this as the music flows. He says, the mind wanders, that's its nature. Each time it does, I just notice where I am in the breath. If inhaling, I shift to I love myself. If exhaling, I shift to letting out whatever is in the mind and body. Occasionally, I shift my attention to the light flowing in from above. Sometimes I do that each time I inhale. Before I know it, 7 minutes are up and the meditation is over. There's something to this. The thought of light flowing into my head from galaxies and stars, the concept of light itself, just like love, the subconscious has a positive association with light. Plants grow towards the light. As human beings, we crave light. We find sunrises and sunsets and a bright moon beautiful and calming. Once again, there's no need to consciously create healing or anything positive. The subconscious takes care of it. All I have to do is give it the image, in this case light. Give it the thought, in this case loving myself. It does the rest. This is an intense practice because it's focused, but does it feel intense? No, quite peaceful actually. I think it's what real emotional intensity is, one that creates peace, love, and growth. And yeah, so here's the next part. One question. It's easy to say I love myself while locked inside my apartment recovering from being sick, but tougher when I'm back to the land of the living, interacting with people who have their own issues and mental loops. So when dealing with others and reacting to their negative emotions with my own, I found myself asking this question. If I love myself truly and deeply, would I let myself experience this? The answer always was a no. It worked beautifully because I've been working on the mental loop. The step after no was clear. Rather than solving the emotion or trying not to feel it, I would just return to the one true thing in my head. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. This question is deceptively simple in its power. It gently shifts your focus from wherever you are, whether it's anger or pain or fear, any form of darkness, to where you want to be, and that is love. Your mind and life have no choice but to follow. So the book continues on here, and I'm not going to obviously read the entire book. It's actually not that long of a book, but as you can see, and there's some very interesting stories here. He's talking about Richard Bandler, who was the founder of NLP, how he was able to cure somebody of schizophrenia, and the concept of what he calls coasting, how it's important, even once things start to go well for you, that you continue this practice, because if you begin to sort of rest on your laurels or coast, as he calls it, things, again, the mind has this tendency to go back towards, like he just mentioned, reacting towards the other negatives in the environment, other people's negative mental loops. And so if we're not constantly pruning and caring and tending to this garden of the mind, there is this tendency to revert back to these old negative habits. So as the interesting thing about this, like he mentions at the beginning of this, is like, why is it that why is that I love myself have such an overarching, as we refer to them here, it's like a blanket affirmation or a umbrella affirmation. Why does it have such a profound impact? Well, for me personally, I think a lot of the things that distance ourselves from our true inner divinity, our true inner being in touch with the amazing spirit that we truly are, is that lack of love. And at some point, somewhere down the line, I have as well, there's an ebook. You guys feel free to download it. It goes into how to discover and uproot the limiting beliefs. And usually when we go about this practice, the core belief, the root belief, the overarching, if you will, blanket belief or blanket counter intention to what it is that we want is something along the lines of I'm not good enough, or I'm not deserving, or I'm not lovable. I don't deserve to love myself. I'm an unlovable person. Why is it that we have this? Well, we absorb it from our environment when we're younger. There's certain things, whether it's our peers, or whether it's the environment, or whether it is just parents and adult figures and authority figures that tell us, oh, you're not good enough unless you can do this, or you're not. Just the way, even they might not even say it explicitly, but it's like we absorb it just by the way that they treat others, or the way that people interact with people in general. This kind of inherent, oh, well, if I don't do as well as, my friend Zach, or if I don't do as well as Susie, or if I don't do as like this, then I'm not good, then I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy of love, I'm not worthy of good things in my life, right? And so this undeservingness, this feeling of not being good enough is so pervasive in humanity that it's very common. It's very, like, when you really go into all the beliefs that you have, it's usually something tied in with that lack of self-worth, that lack of self-love. And that's oftentimes as well why we seek that outside of ourselves, whether it is through a romantic relationship, whether it is through the approval of our peers, whether it is through seeking validation through strangers on the internet. And it comes in so many different forms. And again, to some degree, that may be part of the human condition, I think, because like we're wired to be social creatures. We've always needed to be accepted. We seek acceptance to be a part of something, part of a group, part of a tribe. That's how our ancestors were able to survive as well. It's tapping into our survival, like we've talked about on this channel a lot. But when you were able to give yourself your own approval, your own acceptance, and your own love, that is when, like Kamal says in this book, you'll begin to see reality will begin to reflect this to you. And that's what's so interesting. It's like the mirror does not smile until you smile. And so I think that's at the heart of this, because another reason is, I talk about safety as well, this feeling of a sigh of relief, a feeling of safety. These types of things are really like the types of feeling states, or the awareness of having the wish fulfilled. A lot of the times we're looking for that partner, or that amount of money, or that certain state that we're looking for, that abundance, as a excuse or as a reason for us to finally feel okay, for us to finally feel like we're safe, finally feel that relief of knowing that we're protected, we're okay, we are worthwhile, we're a worthwhile person, we have good things to offer, we are a good person, all of these things. And a lot of the time that external reflection of that partner, the abundance or whatever it is, those things are like a confirmation that we can finally give that to ourselves. And so what Kamal is suggesting here, and as I've suggested, he's not the first person to do it, but I love how he has just this one overarching affirmation that he's created that really kind of attacks it like from all angles, that lack of worth, or that feeling of being good enough. And another way you could say it is there's no reason I'm not enough, or why am I so, or what is it about me that makes me enough or worthy? I don't know. There's so many different ways, but I mean, clearly this way works, and it's worked for him, and it resonates with a lot of people. That's why this book gained popularity. So by loving yourself, essentially, like he mentioned before, the word love is a very kind of taps into our primal instincts and something very at the root of a lot of these other things. It's a very umbrella, a blanket type word. So within that includes like I approve of myself. It includes like I accept myself. And in society, another thing is that we have a lot of shame. There's a lot of people inflicting shame on others, people inflicting guilt on others. It could be for a lot of different things, but there's so much of it that goes on. It could be for wanting more in your life, and the shame of that. People particularly will inflict shame on others as a way to control people or as a way to manipulate people. And if you run into people like this, you're going to want to pay attention to that, because anybody that's inflicting shame on you or guilting you is a control tactic. It's a very, very toxic dynamic. And those are some of the lowest vibratory states that you can have on that vibratory scale that we've talked about, Hawkins' scale of consciousness. And on a societal level as well, there's a lot of this that goes on. So you having the ability and you having the allowing yourself to really approve of yourself, really accept of yourself and all the facets of you as a human being. You know, religion has been, I think there's a lot of good things in religion. I also think that there are certain things that aren't necessarily the best, because there's been a lot of shame taught through those types of teachings as well. When you accept yourself fully, all like the shadow parts of yourself, all of the parts of yourself, when you truly love yourself in the way that he's saying here, a lot of the times you're going to, it's like you finally, now your cup is full, and now you're coming from that place of giving. You're coming from that place of abundance now. You're not, and people and the universe itself will reflect that to you, because somebody who's abundant is going to be giving. Somebody who's in scarcity is going to be taking. And the universe, people that you interact with, are going to be able to feel that energy off of you. When you're, oh, I don't know if I should love myself, I need validation from this SP, or I need validation from these people that I'm meeting, or I need validation from strangers, right? I need this approval. I need it from my family. I need it from wherever. You're seeking outside of yourself. Now people can feel it. It's an energetic imbalance, but people want to be around people that truly do outpour that love. People that do approve of themselves. Because now you're in a place where now everybody else wants approval too. Everybody else wants to feel that too. And because you are giving it to yourself, now you have the capacity, the capability to offer that giving, that approval to others, to offer that love to others, to offer that outflow, that positivity to others. But when you're seeking constantly, you're not really in a place where you can offer, right? And I think that kind of goes at the heart of this as well. But it's a really, really fantastic success story here. This entire book, you can download the book on Audible. There's other ways you can get a hold of it as well. I think there may be some uploads on YouTube, but it's a quick book as well. If you want to listen to it on Audible, on audiobook, it is, I think, only an hour or so long. And it just goes to show that having even one affirmation in this case, which was, I love myself, how transformative that can truly be. And all the questions about what happens if you don't believe it at first, and all of this, he kind of answers that within the context of his own experience and how he was able to really transform his life by committing, by making this vow to himself that he was going to truly love himself and give himself that love that he was looking for outside. That being said, guys, I hope that you guys found this video valuable. I want to break down more, books, more authors that have touched on these concepts and bring them to you guys so that you guys can kind of get other perspectives, hear other success stories, and really kind of assimilate all of this together so that you're able to use this to your own benefit. With that being said, much love. Drop this with a like, hit me with a subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.